menopause care. End silent suffering with SUI, twinkle with Periwinkle. Dr. Hema Divakar in conversation with Komal Shah from Periwinkle. Our mission is to empower millions of women by making it easier for them to take control of their pelvic health anytime and anywhere. Periwinkle Labs, making pelvic care smarter, safer, simpler.
As I have just said, one of the most common words that you would hear in the recent times is stress. Everybody seems to be stressed out about something or the other. And so the most misused, overused, and always you get to hear the word stress. But today we are going to be talking about a different kind of stress, the stress urinary incontinence. And we are so proud of the youth of our country, great brains, Make in India products, and how they thought about such understated, underspoken initiatives of tackling the stress urinary incontinence. We are so happy and proud to present to you. Time to bring Komal Shah on the screen. Welcome, Komal, to this podcast on Femtech 360, where we discuss your innovation on Periwinkle. Right? Just tell us that being in the non-medical space, how did you even ever think of the term stress urinary incontinence? Was it somebody close to you, known to you, who was struggling with this problem, which triggered off your thoughts? And what really happened? How did you get there?
Right. First of all, thank you very much for having me and for the kind introduction as well. My journey in women's health actually began during my master's at IISc Bangalore, where my master's thesis was in the space of antenatal care. And during this time, I met with a lot of women, especially new and expecting mothers who had developed some form of, stress urinary incontinence. And they had developed this either during or soon after pregnancy. What really struck me was how resigned many of them were. They'd say things like, my mother had this and my grandmother had it, so I was just going to get it. It wasn't something, they wouldn't see it as something that can be addressed. And so even though I haven't had a personal experience or an immediate family member facing this, just meeting these women time and again and seeing how they perceived this condition was what really stuck with me.
Komal,
yeah,
antenatal women, pregnant women, new mothers to be, they have several dozens of concerns, out of which, how you pick the stress urinary incontinence? Because there are many things bothering them. Yeah. And they wouldn't have, unless you would have brought, they may not even have, told you about it.
Yes, they hadn't. So they would just bring it up as like part of the passing conversation. This also happened. And then they were saying mainly something else. So it was more of a conversation where this came in, and I would just notice how they would pass it off. Like it's not even something they're even concerned about. And yes, for women who are in their first pregnancy or so, they wouldn't have faced it so much. It's as in the severity is relatively low. But when there's the third child or so, the severity of incontinence would have increased, and over time they have not done anything about it, and it's just increasing and going on. And for many of them, their mother would have probably undergone surgery and so on, and they know all of this is possible, but still not taking action or even thinking that this is a medical condition that something can be done about. So that was really surprising.
Yeah. And then as clinicians or healthcare providers, we find more and more women in the present era at their 40 plus, later in life, at the perimenopausal, menopausal. These were lost in the population, few years back. Once they finish their reproductive career, so to say, then they're just gone. They don't, unless there's something, very, very threatening, and then they have to get the uterus removed. That's a usual story. But in the recent past, the last decade or so, yes, we have seen many women, and hundreds of them in the menopausal space, where also the stress urinary incontinence is a huge problem. So there you would have recognized that there are some ways of addressing it, some exercises, some medical therapy, some surgical, etc. So tell us more about your innovative Periwinkle device.
Right. So For us, we have actually spoken with a lot of women in the perimenopausal and menopausal stage, and they have been dealing with this for quite some time now. Typically, they would have, if not immediately after pregnancy, a few years after pregnancy, they would have developed it, and they would have started Kegels because they're typically taught Kegels
Yes,
immediately, during,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah.
So they would have started it, they knew how to do it, but they will do it for a few days, they'll see improvement, and then they'll stop doing it. For it to come back, and then they will do it again, and the cycle repeats. And we've actually met women who keep doing this cycle for years and years.
Yes.
And so our entire idea was, when we actually started speaking with these women to understand why this is happening and what is it that they are not taking action against. Because even though the cycle is repeating, many of them are telling us that, I want to do something about this, but I'm just not getting the time to do it. Or is it really just the time, or are they looking for some other kind of motivation or some kind of guidance, etc.? So we've actually done 200 plus interviews just to understand these areas itself.
Because I think, in their limited understanding, they know that even the doctors may be just, telling them to do Kegels or Bideko, and then they're also not forthcoming with the fact that it's really bothering them. So somehow they manage, that's
exactly.
That's
exactly.
the scenario. And then since they cannot find any other better option, then now when they pick up Periwinkle, then what happens?
Right. So our focus mainly was that a bunch of these women are not being able to do it because they don't have the time or being able to keep up with something on their everyday lifestyle. And so we wanted to do or create something which is non-invasive, because again, this is associated with a private area, and there are, societal stigmas and other things as well. But also something they can just blend into their everyday lifestyle. And so it runs in the background, but they also understand that they're actually taking ownership of their own health and doing something. And so that was the main idea that we started with. We have actually taken electrical stimulation, which is a known treatment in the physiotherapy regime. And it's quite commonly used, but is a long-term treatment, requires women to visit the clinic for several months at a stretch to, see significant improvement. What we've done is take the same electronics and embed it into a pair of shorts. It can actually go into any kind of bottom wear, leggings or pants or anything. And we just want women to wear this instead of the regular thing that they wear. Just replace that, use their phone to start the treatment, and carry on with their everyday lifestyle. We wanted it to be that blended into their lifestyle and that discreet.
Excellent. And then when they switch on the phone and they have to time it, is it how many minutes they have to use this? Just for the sake of our audience to understand better.
Sure. Typically, depending on the severity of their condition, the doctor will recommend them to use it either 3 times a week minimum, or maximum 3 times a day for 5 days a week. That's on higher side. So this is a decision that we ask them to consult with their doctors with. So there are treatment options in the device itself. They can pick which one they need to take. And the doctor is involved in that pathway as well.
But do the doctors know about this? How did you manage to get round to the healthcare providers to make them understand that this is another novel way out, for your patients who are struggling?
Right. Yes, you're right. Not all doctors know about this. In the beginning, we actually showed them studies that have been done internationally, devices in this space which are already there internationally, the effects that they have, clinical studies and clinical trials that have been done. And there are a few short-term studies that we have also done to show the impact directly on the pelvic floor muscles, etc. And these are the things. It's been a long journey for us. So we have, over time built all this data, going back to the same doctors, talking about them, understanding their perspective as well. And slowly we've been able to work on this.
Yeah, when you say that it's already been, some of such similar devices are there in the West, what's the biggest difference between that and this?
Right.
Is it the cost? Is it the difference in the make? Is the difference in the technology? Is the difference in the very basic principle of what you're offering? Or what is it about our Periwinkle?
Right. Two most important things. One is the cost, of course, is it's designed such that women in India are able to, afford it and use it, etc. So that consideration has been at the forefront right from the beginning for us. But also, yes, the basic principle itself is different. What these devices available in the international market they are required to be used in a very fixed body posture, because electrical stimulation gives a certain amount of force which will contract and relax your muscles at the right clinically significant level if you are in that specific posture. But say I'm doing this in sitting posture, if I stand up, gravity is going to start acting on my muscles. And so then to contract my muscles, I need higher amount of force. And so that is something that these devices have not done. And that's where our actually entire research before we, came up with the product was around. And a patent is also around.
Excellent, excellent. So, and then what were your initial challenges when you did see everything? You cannot hit upon a perfect device at the first time, correct? So, we as clinicians also want to understand, what do you all go through when you start all this? How many adjustments, how many prototypes, how do you try it? Because see, it's not like an animal experiment, right?
Right.
Drug and animal experiment is one phase, and then we get on to the clinical trials. But this, how does it actually happen in reality?
Right. Too many. I don't remember the number of sort of iterations we've actually undertaken. But focus has been that it needs to be a staged approach. We actually did the first study that we did with a device which is already there in the market, and instead of testing our own device, etc., we were just looking at the effect of the protocol that we are offering in terms of, if the body posture changes, that does this still engage the muscles at the right level or not? And so that was the focus first. We slowly moved to testing the app. So it's one step at a time, because first of all, safety is important. We need to be sure we are giving this right in the right way, but also from the patient perspective. If one thing goes wrong, this is the healthcare space, and that can have major implications down the pathway. And so we had to be very careful about that. So a lot of iterations on the background in our own lab in terms of technology, etc. But these are the milestones that we defined, looking at subsystems within the whole product, validating each thing one at a time. So, yeah.
Were you worried about some problem or some issues or some adverse effects that it can cause to the patient when they wear it? When you have, iterated, and then you have said that, this is good to go, but when it actually wears it,
yes, you're right.
Was it worrying you that something may go wrong?
Yes. So as such, electrical stimulation doesn't have, major side effects and all that we had studied, but the patient we can't expect the patient to understand that.
Yeah.
One of the things that I can immediately think of is that even when we started the clinical study, we thought patients are going to think electrical stimulation means we are giving them electrical shocks. Yes. And so that was a very scary thought. We actually, during the clinical study itself, in the beginning, we will explain things to them. The doctor will also tell them things. And somehow in the beginning, there is some hesitation, but they do start the study. We have seen that after a few sessions, women become very comfortable. One of the women actually fell asleep in the fourth session. So that's how relaxed she was. But bridging that gap and getting them to make that first plunge is difficult, and we have to be careful in how we present this to them.
And also, when you tell the doctors, when you pitch it to the doctors, so the devices can be used, there are also some degrees of stress urinary incontinence. In the worst scenario, does this still, what role does this have to play?
Yes. So, so far, most of our studies have actually been focused on, mild and moderate urinary incontinence. So I don't have exact data to tell you. What we have heard from doctors is that it will definitely lead to significant improvement in that condition, because the muscles, so it's similar to Kegel exercises. It's like an alternate for that. So if they're not able to isolate and identify the right muscles and do the exercise themselves, this electrical stimulation at small amounts of currents, which is basically contracting and relaxing the muscle for them.
Yes.
So it's just happening involuntarily without any effort from their side. So it's like if you had done Kegel exercises in a condition where you had, severe stress incontinence, it would be a slow.
Yes, it wouldn't have worked, and we would have to go. And then one important point I want to bring home is for the size, because now a lot of women are so obese, and then it's, it's some bottom where you're saying, and then it has to be blah, blah. So what was the thought process, and how to, comply with the different kind of structure of women in India?
Right.
Perimenopausal and all, now obesity is a huge challenge.
Yes, and actually, in India, when we studied, the body forms, we realized that the bottom part of the body in India is usually larger for women.
Hmm.
And so we had to adapt to that as well. So there are two things. One is, I mean, the size of the shorts itself. We have made multiple sizes, but we are also defining some portions in the shorts like markers, which need to match with certain body parts of theirs. So if there's a certain portion that needs to come on the hip bone, two or three simple things that they will have to look at in the first go. But once they are done, it's quite easy to follow. The second thing is that whatever electronics we've used, we are trying to embed it into silicone. So it's very flexible. It's not like something will break off. So it's like the silicone itself is like a rubbery thing, and inside that everything is embedded. That way it just stays in place.
And even the silicone, is there some quality control on that silicone, some specifications?
Absolutely. So biocompatibility is very, very important. That's been a part of our regulatory process, and we had to make sure, we are complying with the standards around biocompatibility, skin sensitivity, and all of those things. And that certification has been taken care of.
Remember that feeling as a kid when you accidentally wet your pants? For millions of women, that worry comes back later in their life. This condition, called urinary incontinence, affects 1 in every 3 women above the age of 30 at some point in their lives. This isn't just a physical issue. It impacts confidence, daily routines, and mental well-being. So why is something so common still hidden in the shadows? We realized it's time for change. Hi, I'm Komal Shah, CEO at Periwinkle Labs, a startup from IISc Bangalore. Our team has spent 3 years to intensely research the use of electrical stimulation, a modality commonly used to treat urinary incontinence, especially in physiotherapy clinics. It uses small amounts of currents to cause repetitive engagement of pelvic floor muscles, strengthening them over a period of time. But it is a long-term solution requiring repeated clinical visits, which can become tedious. We have taken this clinic-based treatment and embedded it into a pair of shorts like this. Our novel fabric-based electrodes are arranged such that a layperson can simply put on the shorts and everything will be automatically placed at the right anatomical site. A local unit like this is Bluetooth enabled and communicates with a smartphone app so that you can control the device anytime and anywhere. This modularly designed system allows for a local unit to be removed and put for charging while the rest of the shorts are washed just like any other clothing. One could be wearing this under any regular clothing, sitting at her desk in the office and doing her everyday work while taking this treatment, and no one would know. It is that discreet. At Periwinkle Labs, we believe every woman deserves a life without limitations, and we are here to make that happen.
When you say make in India, so this silicone part, some other part, this, that, and all have to be imported from somewhere?
No, we are actually buying everything from India also. All vendors currently in India.
Oh, that's good to hear. So that will again, effectively change them. And also, suppose X amount is the cost of this. Okay. And then now women are they're very serious about gymming and slimming. So when she slims down, then she'll have to necessarily change the device.
Sorry, I didn't understand
that. You said different sizes. So if her size changes.
Okay. Right. So, yes. So what happens is that on the shorts itself, there is a specific connector on which the device connects. They can just remove the device and the shorts, they can just keep wearing it. There is no implication of wearing that. The device also, we recommend they remove it because it'll just come in their way, whatever they want to do. Because gymming might have certain exercises, etc. We've designed it for everyday regular work. So I could be sitting in my office, just device is worn and it won't cause any harm. But yes, anything out of the ordinary, it's preferred that they remove it.
Okay. Any comparative, kind of insights, explorations into comparative study between, say, this device and that Emsella chair, which is now, getting very popular, and then PRP injections, which rejuvenate those mucosal areas, and then it gets them slipper. Any options on the same horizon?
So the primary thing with this is that you can just take it at home and it's very less
cumbersome.
It's just part of your everyday lifestyle and it just blends in. So it's like you're taking an alternative for the exercising itself. There is no other intervention as such which is coming in. And the cost is significantly lower than the Amsela chair and other options that are there in the market. That way, the access is much better. Even in terms of just by making it a home use device, the access is definitely much better. In terms of effectiveness, electrical stimulation is already proven to be, a treatment pathway with accepted and widely used. So that is not something that we would have any concerns about.
And also, once she buys the device, how long can she continue using it? Does it wear out, wear away? Or she can keep on using it like for a long, long time?
Right. So 2 points here. One is the device as such. Actually, the electronics module can run for about 5 years. So that's no issue there. The wearable they might have to buy because it's good for 6 months or so. That's assuming, if they're wearing it every day, because it has conductive fabrics and other things which will wear off over time. And we have actually designed this wearable also for washability. So if they're washing it every day, over 6 months or so, it will stop, it won't have the right performance. And so they might have to replace just the pair of shorts, but use the same device in connection with it. But typically this treatment itself is for about 4 to 6 months. And so we don't expect them to use it for too long.
Use it for longer.
But of course, there will be women who don't comply with it the way they're supposed to, in which case they might have to continue for longer periods.
Yeah. So when you actually get this into the market, are you planning some long-term follow-up, which is the right thing to do in many of the users? Yes. Because you say 6 months, then
we are.
And then once they stop, how soon does it come back again? And then they want to exercise, then again they have to wear it. So any idea already about how this course is likely to be? The course of reusing it after a couple of, maybe 1 or 2 years, they're okay. And then again they have to.
Right. We do intend to do a follow-up for this. Internationally, clinical research has looked at up to 15 years of follow-up, because what they're trying to capture is the period between the pregnancy and the menopause as well, because menopause is the time where the next point of trigger comes in, when estrogen levels in the body start reducing. And so that's the period that they've tried to capture. And we do think that will be relevant for us also, especially looking at it from the Indian context is very important.
Okay. And then also that have some people, who have used it, complained of anything specific to you? What they didn't like about it? Just the flip side.
Yes, so we have had some feedback on the application side, because so this is something that we are envisaging that they can use. I could be sitting at my desk in the office and using it, and discrete control from my app, but it's a medical device, and so there are compliances required in terms of the alarms we set off. They naturally don't want alarms to be set off when they are sitting in the office. And so we had got a lot of feedback around that space, and we have actually made some edits there, but that was a real concern, being able to use this discreetly, like foolproof discrete use of this was,
Good. That's a very good thought, because then, this whole issue of stress urinary incontinence is a very secretive matter. It's very personal, very secretive, very confidential, and they won't even tell us, that we have to probe and ask them. They won't even. So given that context, then they would obviously, want it to be as discreet as possible. Now, have you heard from your friends, colleagues, seniors, any device make in India like this, they have to bring it out into the market? Is it too much of a hassle for the regulatory processes, for getting it out there, and then who decides what, and what is generally the process? Because many of the young bright minds are wanting to start something, and then we are, as clinicians, all out to, especially non-invasive, point of care, value add, cost effective. All these are our buzzwords. If you can give us something, we'll be delighted to reach it to every girl, every woman. Okay, but from your end, to just get it out there, is there a lot of hassle still, or has it improved over the years?
I think there is some improvement over the years for sure. Up until recently, only pharmaceuticals related regulations were being used for medical devices as well, which has improved now. There is a new medical devices rules which makes things much easier, because the pathway that needs to be taken for medical devices is much different from that for pharmaceuticals.
True.
So that's one major area where we've seen improvement. But also, the other thing is that not all kinds of devices are there in India. And so a lot of the regulations being followed are just following whatever is being done internationally. And so that process does take slightly additional time, I think. And in our case as well, there is no home use electrical stimulation device that we came across. And so we had to make some additional justifications and other things, even though FDA has already cleared devices like this. It's taking some time for all that to happen, but it is in process, and it's going forward.
Because, many of the startups and innovators should not be put off with the fact that there are some processes are tedious, because the making of this itself,
Yes.
we know how much of the efforts would have gone in. So just a little more extra stretch, and then little more efforts to get this into the market.
Yeah.
What is your plan of disseminating this? Is it directly to women and consumers? Can they just on their own, start using it and, move ahead? Or should it necessarily go through healthcare providers with some special advice that we want to give them? Or how does it work?
Right. So, see, devices like this are actually being sold over the counter internationally. But that's also because all the population there is aware of this kind of a technology and is comfortable to take it up that way, which is not the case in India. And so we think that the initial few years, it will have to be through healthcare professionals, which will give them the trust on something like this. Otherwise, they will just worry about buying something like this and using it on their own.
Yes.
And so we definitely think that in the beginning, it has to be through clinicians and, clinics and healthcare facilities, basically. But yes, down the line, there is scope. Once it's well established, once there's more word of mouth, networking around this, people are sharing more about the effects of this treatment on their own health condition, etc. We think that there is potential to use this as, at least to bring it to online pharmacies, etc., where they can just, place an online order and get it home.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Because finally, I think the healthcare providers will play a role in influencing, because even if the patient is using it on her own and she just by chance asks us what is it, oh, we don't know anything about this, or we don't know how it works, or maybe this will not work, and why are you doing all this? It may cause this, that, and the other. There could be a variety of things that can come from our end also. So
absolutely,
I think in all fairness, if there's a good connect between the innovators and clinicians, that's what we are, we are always hoping to do, so that we understand the gaps that you have perceived and trying to plug it, and we can do our best to implement and have the necessary impact. So that is the kind of thought process with which we are connecting the dots of innovators, startups, investors, and the clinicians.
Yeah.
Again, with the patient as a central focus. The girls, women as a central focus, because this is the whole thing of self-care is a new concept. The preventive care, again, is something that is slowly seeping in, but we want,
especially for women.
Absolutely. So we want the next generation women who are pretty smart, who stand up for themselves and they want to do better for themselves. This is our opportunity, I think, to enhance some of these innovations to reach the right kind of population. And what do you think that people in general about, even menstruation was something that, people would hesitate to talk. Okay, sexual dysfunctions, they will hesitate to talk. Like that, urinary incontinence, what do you think is the general scenario as of now? People do misunderstand, or what do they think about it? They think it's sexually transmitted diseases, for example, urinary incontinence, anything can happen. What has been your general experience dealing with the women?
Right. They do not accept that they have it, and like you said before also, even with doctors, they do not come and tell them that I have a complaint of, incontinence. They would have typically come for some other condition. And in the process of diagnosis or, during other questioning, the doctor will typically find out that they actually have incontinence. And for us also, when we were trying to meet with like I said, we've interviewed about 200 women. When we were trying to meet with them and just get in touch with someone, it was difficult for anyone to find someone that will actually say that I have this and I'm going to talk to you about it, right?
Yeah.
So that has been the biggest challenge on this. We actually took another route. We started meeting with women who were new mothers or had, were around the age of menopause, assuming that they might have this condition. And in the process of questioning them and talking to them, when we bring up that, we have spoken, we had to really iterate that we have spoken to so many other women. It's a very common condition. It happens, and there is something that can be done about it.
Yes.
That was when women actually start saying it, because it is definitely bothersome to them, but they just don't think of something that can be done about it.
Very much bothersome, and it's such a, they kind of digest it within themselves, and it plays on their mind as well. And there are many reasons for the hidden depression because of these problems that they're harboring, and they cannot come. So I think that, innovators like you who have stepped ahead boldly to solve some of these unspoken problems, I think there is a hope for all the women out there that incontinence is not inevitable. They don't have to live with it. They can definitely control it. So more power to Komal Shah and colleagues to do better for the women folk there. This is one of the understated and less discussed problems. As she said, in our checklist of all the things that we ask the patient, this is one of the asks that we can tap more women who actually may be having this problem, but they're not coming out with the truth about it. And then sometimes I feel, Komal, that we don't ask because we don't know what next. Kegels exercises and all, if you tell, it's easily said than done. We're selling exercise, even lifestyle, we say, okay, calorie control and exercise, you should do this, you should do that. It's just in saying, maybe we're not saying it with enough conviction, or they cannot really implement that in their lifestyle. So these are the opportunities. When we know that we have these opportunities, we can boldly ask and strongly suggest that, okay, here is something that we can offer. Because when we are also helpless and want to push it under the carpet, then we also don't ask.
Yeah.
So that also happens. So it's like both ways.
Both sides,
both ways, I think. So as I said, that this is a very, very interesting and an exciting development, because this is not a life-threatening problem, but it's a real nuisance of a problem. Only the one who has it, one who is struggling with it, knows what they're going through. And
absolutely,
they would really bless innovators like Komal Shah when they know that this simple to use has transformed their daily life into such a comfort level that when they reflect back, oh, this was so simple and I could have told my doctor and I could have used it. So that is the sense of hope and confidence that we want to give out to every woman out there. So please speak to your doctor. There are more coming in with great innovations, and we are so proud that the thinking and making is happening in India. And we wish the generation next of all these brilliant innovators the very best in their future, and we are always here to support. Thank you, Komal. Namaste.
Thank you very much.